Next, fast forward a year. So October's a really hard month. Don't technically know why.
Well, that's awesome. You're doing this in October.
Yeah,
That's cool.
it's been a hard month, but I need to remember where I've come from.
Okay.
I'm not really quite sure, but around this time, not every year, but those years was when suicide was at my worst. That's all I wanted to do. And it's kind of heartbreaking to think about. But, side note, I kind of remembered, when little girls are growing up, they want to plan their wedding, they talk about, sometimes, I don't know, I guess, fantasize about their wedding. I fantasize about my funeral. I was so fascinated with death. It's like I still kind of am in like the unknown of people passing to go.
Like what happens next?
Yeah, like I'm kind of but I'm not in the sense of let me die. Yeah, I just remember like growing up and planning my funeral, which hopefully I wouldn't even be alive at.
Of course, you don't want to be alive.
I know.
That's
but
not going to be good.
That just, that's weird, Like, what kid fantasizes about their funeral? So, yeah, that's kind of just where my whole mental state was for a really long time. And I was self-medicating. Didn't acknowledge that then. Obviously know that now. So, okay. I graduated from college, broke up with a guy I was dating. He loved pot so much, so I would get back into like smoking with him. Didn't realize that once I actually did PCP. Was not a fun experience. Scared the daylights out of me. But
What did you do something crazy while you were on
yeah, I was like
PCP? I mean, I said PNC.
I was seeing sounds and hearing colors, if that makes sense.
Does.
I was tripping out. Oh my God.
So at the time, did you like that experience or no?
I loved weed,
Okay.
but I did not love that experience. I didn't like, it induced my panic and anxiety.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so moving on. I graduated from college, broke up with that boyfriend. The next day, this was all in the same weekend, I had my tonsils taken out. That was the best and worst thing. I was constantly getting really sick for a really long time. They had to take out my tonsils. I was prescribed Vicodin. It was such a painful surgery. Like, I wouldn't wish that on anyone to go through when you're an adult. It was a really long recovery, like at least a month. And I was self-medicating like crazy during that time because, I had this prescription for Vicodin. I was given it, I didn't think I was abusing it because it was a prescription.
But you wasn't doing it every 4 hours or every 8 hours like they said. You were just popping them more.
Yeah, like I was taking it too much, but I wasn't popping a lot at once. So I was like, I don't have,
You don't have a problem.
Yeah, and so I didn't know at the time, but obviously the prescription runs out, and I didn't realize that I was like addicted to it. I didn't know, and at the time I didn't really know until I really looked back on it, and I was like, I was withdrawing from this, and that triggered that whole situation. I do really bad with transitions and change. That whole situation, where I graduated college, didn't really know what I wanted to do with my degree besides help people. Broke up with that boyfriend, had a pretty intense surgery and a really hard recovery. I fell into like a 5-month depression. So that's when I saw that psychiatrist that gave me Xanax, Ativan, and Klonopin, and said kind of like, just figure out what works for you. And at the time, like, people joke about Xanax and whatnot, and I knew it was addictive. I didn't realize the extent of what it actually can do, though, especially when you're self-medicating. So at this time, I fell into a really deep depression. I was in bed for 5 months. I barely went to work. I did I started my career in early childhood education, and I was teaching a class of 12 2-year-olds, but I was like a walking zombie. I barely made it out, like I just like barely made it out of the house, just came home, went to bed, barely was able to go to work. Like I was in bed for 5 months. It was a good day. Like, it's embarrassing to say, but like if I could get up and drink water and brush my teeth, it was a good day. Because of the depression, I was losing like chunks of hair. I mean, I'm fortunate I have really thick hair, but I like it's still like growing back. And I was really self-conscious about that for a really long
And you were
time.
losing hair because of the depression.
Because of the depression, I was so stressed. And my sister is a cosmetologist, so I asked her like way after the fact, and she said a lot of times when you get, and it makes sense, when you get into these depressive or very stressful times, your body wants to get rid of whatever it thinks it doesn't need. So I lost a bunch of hair. Okay, so during that time, it was like a 5-month span of not leaving my bed, my house, barely making it to work. If I went to work, I was really just existing. People like would always comment on, how I was such a peaceful, calm person, and I am, but I look back and I was like, I was high off my little benzo cocktail that I would have.
You're high off everything.
Yeah. And I, at the time, just, I was really depressed. Didn't think I had a problem. But I did. So, fast forward to 2 years exactly this week, I tried to OD on benzos. I took way too many. Didn't take enough, though, to OD. But I took way too many. And my mom like knew something was going on because I was having a panic attack, and I love my mom. She is so blunt, and she saw what I was doing, and she was like, "Get in the car, we're going to Hopkins." And I initially like was defiant with it, but I was trying to kill myself. And
so you didn't take enough, and it just had you loopy, or
yeah, but I was, I didn't fully go through with it, but that's what I wanted to do. So she takes me to Hopkins, and that was like, that was the worst time of my life, but her doing that was the best time of my life, in the sense that like this inpatient experience the year later was completely different than the one before. It was more of a therapeutic approach. I really understood, like, hey, like, I have all these diagnoses, but they don't define who I am. And I'm also very in my head. So I'm so used to working, going to school, working overtime, working multiple jobs, to not be in my head. And all I could do there was sit and be in my head. And I'm, stripped of the independence that I crave. But I still overcame a lot. That was like a big turning point in my life.
so the counselors and everybody played a major part of your thought process?
Kind of, yeah. But I also kind of came to the realization, like, it was the first time in my life since I was 15 I didn't have a job. I had to leave my job. It was hard, and I had to learn that I had to be happy with myself. The doctor that I saw there, he was like, yeah, you might have major depressive disorder, borderline bipolar 2, like extreme anxiety, PTSD, this eating disorder thing, self-medicating, whatever. Like, the list goes on, and he was like, none of that matters. And that was like the first time I really felt validated by a medical professional. So that was really nice. Got on the right meds, got the right connections. What really stunk, though, at the time, like, they were like, so we're only releasing you with an after plan. And the first time that I was inpatient. They didn't care less about my after plan. So they were like, you have to go to an outpatient for at least 6 weeks. And I was like, so I'm not going to be able to work. Like, what do you mean? I'm going to have to go to outpatient as my job all day, every day for 6 weeks? I was so mad. But I signed off on it just so I could get out because I was so done with being there. Just like, contained, even though I wasn't in a safe place, wasn't self-medicating. Got out, went to outpatient the next day. I ended up seeing a friend in there, and she was shocked that I was in there. She was like, why are you here? And I kind of told her what was going on. But that was really cool because I was like, I know I put on a really great facade, but, I'm not. Like, I'm pretty broken.
You're not as well put together as you present yourself to be at the time.
Yeah, so initially I was kind of upset I had to go to outpatient because I'm so used to working and supporting myself. And it actually ended up being the best thing because I just, that was the turning point. I realized more.
Was this outpatient all day? Like you had to go in the morning and leave and come back again, or?
It was a little bit of both, and then you'd phase out and go half a day every day, half a day, a few days,
Okay.
So that was a really great turning point. I was able to really feel final, this hope that I never felt before. Really took the time to understand that I was self-medicating, that I felt the need to be in these relationships with people who really weighed me down because I felt broken, but instead of working on my own brokenness, I felt the need to help them.
Oh, so your relationships made you feel more, it validated you more or less basically.
Yeah, but looking back on it, they were very toxic. They were very toxic, which did not help. And where am I going?
You're going better. Seems like you're getting better already.
Yeah.
You finally got a diagnosis of what's going on with you in your head, and they finally got you on the right track. Is what you're saying. That's where we're at.
So after that whole thing was done, I landed a job at a juvenile residential facility. Initially, it was the best thing that ever happened. It was great, and I'm very fortunate for my experience there. But it was a really difficult job as to where I was working. In the sense, not with the residents necessarily, but with administration, all this stuff. So anyways, fast forward to June of 2018. During that time I was still occasionally going out with friends and noticing that I still didn't have the self-control to stop drinking.
To take one? You couldn't take one,
Yeah. I mean, occasionally, if I was, at a family dinner or whatever, I could have one. And so that's why I didn't think I was an alcoholic or an addict. But I was self-medicating. I would go out and I'd just get belligerent. I hated that feeling.
I can't even see you being belligerent.
Yeah.
So, then that's that perfect facade again, right?
Yeah.
I can't see it, but go ahead.
Yeah. Go to June of 2018. My friend and I, we both worked at the same place. We've known each other for a little while. She was like a family friend. She and I, we were having a really difficult time at the job that we were working at, which is a whole nother story in and of itself. So that weekend we decided to go take a weekend trip to Ocean City. And just kind of have fun, go on a weekend beach trip. We went out to Secrets. The first night we got there, I think. And it was just her and me. Initially we were having a lot of fun. She and I just kind of went out. We were dancing. We started to drink pretty heavily. We ended up actually somehow getting separated. She went to use the restroom, The dance floor was packed. This place was huge. We got separated. She was drinking. I was drinking. I was drinking really heavily. I met this guy. Thought he was cute. Whatever. Still drinking heavily a lot. Dancing. But I was kind of still there. And then I decided to leave. Go to the motel, hoping that she maybe went back because we got separated. I wanted to meet up with her. On my way, though, I remember leaving the club. I was blacked out, completely. So I'm going home. This guy ends up following me. We're going home. We went to the motel. This guy ends up following me back to the motel. I was completely blacked out. At times, I would gain a little bit of consciousness and then black out again. Don't really remember too much as to what happened from the time I left the club to the time I got to the motel, but my body does remember it, which I didn't know was a result of trauma. Get back to the motel, and I kind of was gaining consciousness back a little bit. I was sexually and physically assaulted at knife point. Yeah, I remember trying to be suffocated. But I was still kind of going in and out of...
So like where he tried to kill you, basically.
Yeah. Or some, I don't know, something like
remember.
that. It was really intense, and it's really hard talking about because, I feel like a disappointment to my loved ones. Like, that's a lot for them to
have to hear.
Especially because that's not really the life I kind of lived that they knew of. Yeah, it was devastating. It was devastating. It was really hard. This was less than a year and a half ago. From that time to the spring of this year was still really difficult. I didn't know I had PTSD to the extent that it was at until a few months later. So that weekend, my friend and I were still at the beach. She came back to the motel maybe like an hour after that guy left. I remember being so scared. I was finally coming back more and more to consciousness. I like somehow pushed this guy off. I remember exactly like what he looks like, just his face. I remember pushing this guy off somehow. I had the strength to do that. I think I like kicked him with my leg. I remember screaming rape, and that freaked him out enough. He like jumped off. I was able to push him off, run to the bathroom, and I locked myself in there. But I was still kind of going in and out of consciousness. And I think I was maybe in there for 20 or 30 minutes. I didn't really remember hearing any noise, but I was like, I have to get out of here. Like, I'm in the bathroom, and I remember just like praying to God, or at the time, whatever greater power was out there, to just like let him not be there. Like, that he left. He did leave. Fortunately. And I got out of the bathroom, locked the door, and fell back to sleep. My friend came in. She was able to make her way back. We fell asleep. She fell asleep. We fell asleep. We woke up the next day and we were like, what the heck happened? And so that whole day we were at Ocean City. She was trying to kind of distract me of what happened, like talk to me too, but I also didn't want to talk. And I was like just really sad and sick, and like we came to the beach to have an escape from the job we were at, and this happened. So the whole day I was going back and forth. Do I call the police? Do I not call the police? Like, do I go to the hospital? Do I not go to the hospital? Like,
so you didn't know if you played a part in it or not, basically, is what you're saying. Like, or you was just knowing that you didn't, but you didn't know if they were going to believe you, or...
Yeah, and so in the past, though, with the first instance, I did go to the police, but I went a year later.
Okay.
It was too late. So I was scared, you know. I didn't know what to do. I went back and forth. I was pretty devastated, and I did end up going to the hospital, and that was devastating and scary. Like, you know, that was getting a rape kit done is trauma in itself. Speaking to forensics, like, I just remember sitting there on the stretcher and being like, what did I do to get here? But fortunately, the police that I worked with at the time were very validating, and that was my first positive experience with them. So yeah, that was great, but it was a lot to handle. I tried to take it to court twice, and I just was too scared to do it. So moving on, right after that situation, like, I got back into a pretty toxic, manipulative relationship, and we were together for about a year, and that's when my PTSD was getting really, really bad. Different things would trigger it. But at that time, I came to terms with, you know, I never really thought I was an alcoholic, never thought I was an addict, but, you know, I was demonstrating a lot of those behaviors. Substances and drinking, like, they didn't have any benefit to me. You know, I'm finally at the point where I'm trying to really embrace who I am as a person. You know, I've been able to do a lot of healing and coming to terms with who I am and gaining my confidence and strength. And I, you know, came to terms with, you know, even if this was a secondary thing, there's no need for me to pick up a drink or do self-medicate.
It seems like whenever you picked it up, something happened.
Yeah, like
it was like they went hand in hand, like salt and pepper, right?
Yeah.
Whenever you did something, boom, something happened.
Yeah, and now I, like, barely even take medication if I have a headache or something. Like, the thing is that, like,
nothing happens when you're in your right mind, right?
Yeah, no.
Because you know how to be like, get out of here. What's wrong with you, right?
Yeah.
Like, get away from me.
It also was very triggering too with, like, my depression. Like, alcohol does not work well with that. Even if you take, like, medication too, like for depression. So yeah, I just was like, you know, I don't need to drink. I don't need to be self-medicating.
You don't need medication at all, is basically what you're saying.
Yeah, and I mean, I do take a mood stabilizer, because if I don't, I wasn't really blessed with that serotonin gene. Didn't really happen. Kind of missed that in my brain.
You're funny.
And,
okay.
yeah. So,
does talking about everything that happened in your life helps more than anything else, or?
Yeah, like, it's okay to ask for help.
So when you tell people your story and you talk about this stuff, it's like benefiting you as well as the listener.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't really talk about my story to other people.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, it was.
Well, there's gonna be a lot of people
guys.
seeing it now. What do you say?
I mean,
hi guys.
So, like, but, you know, I wish that stuff never happened in my life. I wish I didn't have to go through that. But I also want to be the person I am today if it didn't happen. I feel like I have gained a lot of strength and awareness, and, like...
So you turned all the lemons into lemonade, basically.
Trying to, yeah. Tried to, and I feel like I have. You know, and advocacy plays a big part of my story, too, now. Like,
advocacy, what
advocacy, like, just raising the awareness of the stigma with sexual assault, sexual abuse, mental health in general, too, just the stigma around it. So, yeah, overcome. So, a big thing was, you know, my first tattoo was this thing I created symbolizing overcoming with hope.
Where's that tattoo at?
It's on my side. And I actually, ironically, got that before a lot of this happened. But, you know, I really, at the time, felt like I needed some type of hope in my life. I don't know where I really got that from. I think I read, like, a blog or something, and I was like, wow, like, I'm missing hope. And I just had, like, the smallest amount of hope during that time of my life. And I really felt like I was overcoming a lot. So I kind of just am like, You know, take it each day at a time, one day at a time. Holding on to the little hope I have during these times. Noticing that, you know, I don't need to drink or self-medicate to numb the pain. I'm allowed to just let it happen. Exist through it and feel it.
You're allowed to go through it.
Because it's going to pass. It sucks, but it's going to pass. So, yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Wow, you did all that with a smile too. That is awesome. I really appreciate that, and I hope this helps somebody. Yeah. I know. I'm pretty sure it's gonna.
All right, cool.
Thank you,
I hope
Megan.
so too.
Thank you, Meg. That's awesome. Bye.
See ya.